hopefully my most succinct fired up stiletto speech ever. Alright, while this next performance is getting set up, which is apparently quite an elaborate thing, I'm going to talk about this activist group called Fired Up Stilettos. They are a group who formed because a whole bunch of them were fired from their jobs through a Facebook post from the strip club Calendar Girls back in Wellington. Some of you might have seen some of this on the news and not known what it might be about, but the reason why it is very relevant to pole dancers today is because strippers are still being very stigmatized, even though pole dancing as a hobby came from strippers who made it a hobby. So it was strippers who made it go into the strip clubs. It wasn't gymnasts, it wasn't circus people, it was strip clubs. And they decided, hey, let's open a pole studio and teach these people how to do this. And then that's how pole studios started. And then other influences came from other different things after that. And then those things kind of made it what it is today. However, still to this day, the world of sex work, which stripping is part of, is very stigmatized and falls into a grey area in law, in particular within independent contracting, which stripping is. Most of you who are here already know this, but some of you who don't may not realise that when strippers go to the club, they do not get paid at all, unless they are being paid by a customer. They don't get paid an hourly rate, they don't get paid a starting rate. They do in America, they do in some places in Australia, but that does not exist in New Zealand. So a stripper can walk away with $5 for a 10-hour shift, or they can walk away with $5,000. That barely ever happens, by the way, but it can happen, and it does from time to time. But it really depends on the year and on the time of year and the person that you're speaking to. So therefore, the customers are the people that have got to give them the money, and still the strip club takes a percentage of that fee. The reason why they got fired was because they asked if the fee being taken from them would not be risen, which is what the club was about to announce. They were going to take more of a percentage, and they were going to be taking over 50% of these women's money that they were earning on their own. And there's a certain point where it gets too much. You can work at a gym, and the gym takes a percentage of your fee, but they're not going to take more than a certain amount because you're the one doing all the work. Yes, they provide the space, but otherwise it's too much. So therefore, within the grey area, which recently Uber drivers, they've been now recognised in law as independent contractors with more rights, and for people in film, but strippers are not, and it's because of the type of work they do, because it is stigmatised. But this is an old type of work. This is one of the oldest kinds of jobs that have ever existed. And it will always exist, whether people like it or not. And these are people who are doing it, who are people. They are human beings. Sometimes they're at uni, sometimes they're mums, sometimes they're everyday people just like you and I. And so it's important for them to have human rights just like anyone else. But right now, they don't. And so strip clubs are able to exploit them. They're able to abuse them, especially people who enter the industry when they're 17 or 18 years old, totally naive and forced to sign contracts, which then make them be susceptible to this behaviour. They also get fined for little things that normal employees would never be, like maybe they might get a warning from time to time, but that's it. But strippers are getting fined a lot of their pay, sometimes all of their pay. Sometimes they are indebted for long periods of time to their club for bad behaviour, for not wearing the right makeup, for taking off their heels one time, for taking too long of a break. Most of the time they don't even get a break. So this is just some of many examples. And it's relevant to pole dancers because we get to do something as a hobby and it doesn't get as stigmatised, and yet the people who allowed for it to become a hobby are still being stigmatised today. Does that sound right to you? No. No, it doesn't sound right. That's right. That's right. So fired up stilettos, or 19 fired up stilettos as they've been called, are on Instagram. They're regularly running events. They're regularly running fundraisers so that they can support people in the industry who are trying to take their clubs to court for fining them for totally unreasonable reasons. And they are trying to start a union. They've been to Parliament, they've had the full Green Party, they've got full Green Party support, go the Greens. And they are slowly getting more and more recognised the louder that their voices become and the more that they put the word out about this. It is really important for us as a pole dancing community or supporters of to support them by being an ally. And here are some of the things we can do. Number one, if anybody talks down about stripping, you can say, hey, I know people who do that job and they're just regular people, there's no need to talk down about the job. Okay, that's just like an easy one, right? Number two, if you are pole dancing in heels, if you're pole dancing sexy style, know that you are doing the style of stripping, and that's okay. It doesn't mean you have to do it for money, but you can be proud of it and you can say, hey, this is where this actually comes from. This is the OG style, the original style. Number three, if you go to a strip club, if you decide to randomly go to a strip club, get some money out and give some tips to the dancers at the very least. If you don't have any money, don't go. Don't go there because they ain't getting paid unless you give them some money and you're just taking a spot from somebody who could be getting paid, and that's really important. Number four, if you see someone that you know at the strip club, find out what their name is while they're there because it's not the name you know them as. They have a different name, okay? And it's important to recognize that name and say, hey, what's your name? So that then they can tell you and then you can call them by that name so then they don't get outed to random dudes in the club who might stalk them, which does happen. And then the other thing you can do in the club is you can't get up and get on the poles because that's not your time, that's their time to showcase themselves so that they can earn some money. And you can keep nice and quiet, you can appreciate them when they come by you, but screaming really loudly and doing a whole lot of tomfoolery in the club is also something that takes away from them. So when they're in the club, they need to be mostly the centre of attention, not the other random chicks who are like randomly dancing on their partners trying to distract their partners, when their partners are just there to see some titties and ass. And also, all the tricks are going to fly over a customer's head. So it doesn't matter what they do as long as they're being sensual and seductive, and that is the point of the job. Does that sound like an easy thing to do to support that? Yeah. Yeah? What was that now? Yeah. So we just have a little chant that we have to say to finish off, and that is, strippers are cool! Strippers are cool! Strippers are cool! Strippers are cool! Yeah, thank you very much for listening, everybody. And yeah, if you ever see me in the club, I'm Storm, by the way. Make sure you keep an eye on 19 Fired Up Stilettos, and if you can ever attend one of their events, go and attend and support them. It's all going to better human rights for everyone.